Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootlickers, shills, debt slavers, peasants, vassals, minions, meat sacks, global citizens. I'm a useful idiot. Welcome. And I decided after doing that previous video about the global corporate governance and the New World Order through these trade agreements, I would do a short series on different topics that relate to that. And I think they'll all be kind of semi-long because it's a deep topic. But it seems like there's another concerted push for this idea of globalization, only they don't want to use the terms New World Order or anything like that anymore. We're gravitating towards a new set of terms. And one of the efforts that's going on right now simultaneously with these trade agreements is a UN plan that came out last September 2015. And it's called Transforming Our World, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. And it outlines 17 goals that the UN set up as a blueprint for a united world and goals to be achieved in the next 15 years, which include, like I say, 17 major goals and 169 targets. And when you look at the surface, of course, it all looks well and good. And that's one of the beauties of a lot of these trade agreements and in this UN report. When you read them, they sound so altruistic and so noble. And it's all good things, like who isn't against world hunger? But unfortunately, all these documents that come out from the UN and come out from these trade agreements are couched in these benign terms, but hide these rather insidious and diabolical ideas. And we've seen that already in the trade agreements, and we also see it in this new UN global goal list. And it was set off with quite a fanfare. I apparently missed this, but they had the 14th annual Global Citizen Rally in Central Park with 60,000 people. This is back in September 2015. And even Pope Francis came and endorsed this idea at the UN back at that same time in September. And so when you go down this list of goals, like I say, it sounds wonderful. Who doesn't want to end world hunger? But I will interpret a lot of this based on this article I've read, which interpreted all these moves, and I thought it was fairly accurate, so I'm going to list it verbatim, although I added a bunch of things to them that weren't in the article. So goal number 1 is to end poverty, which in code means to allow central banks and the world banks to infiltrate all world societies and create a cashless society. The second goal is to end hunger and improve agriculture. In code, that simply means that GMOs will be dominating the future world. Goal number 3 is to ensure the health of global citizens. And the code, what that means in code is food capture. Global food systems will be captured by corporations. There's going to be more wealth extraction due to health care systems around the world. And exorbitant drug prices set up by global cartels that are going to be acting with impunity with these new trade agreements. And then, of course, vaccinations, which are kind of loaded with all sorts of things. Goal number 4 of the UN, education and opportunities for all global citizens. And, of course, we know that means brainwashing, indoctrination through ineffective state education systems globally that will only produce drones. And part of the reasons why we will have free education, much of the world already does, and free education will be the wave of the future because they want everybody to go through these systems. And that also includes controlling textbooks and creating the state narrative through these textbooks. And goal number 5 of the UN, gender equality, which in code means population controls, state family planning, and of course double taxation. They want to get all the women in the world working so they're all paying taxes just like they are here in the United States. I also found it was interesting that the gender equality clause in the UN plan goals list was based on the Beijing Platform for Action. So interesting that they would use China for the model of gender equality and population control and family planning. And then goal number 6 for the UN, water and sanitation, which of course in code means additives in order to influence the populations, including things like fluoride. And then mostly the privatization of water. That's a future development when corporations will actually control all the drinking water. Goal number 7 in the UN, sustainable energy. That means the setup of smart grids and smart meters so that people can be taxed more and everybody put on the grid, which is also another method of surveillance. Goal number 8 for the UN, productive growth and employment for all global citizens. And of course what that means is free trade zones and shifting labor offshore, shifting labor forces around the globe to find the cheapest output, and the main goal being, of course, cheap labor. Number 9 is an attention. The UN wants global attention to infrastructure, and of course, in the future, what that will mean in code is toll roads and a move towards public transit and getting people away from private vehicles, and of course, removing travel restrictions so that people can travel all over the globe freely. Number 10, reduce inequality. Yeah, good luck with that. Number 11, make cities safe and inclusive, which means expanding the 24/7 surveillance of everybody who lives in cities, and as a part of that is also the militarized police. Goal number 12 of the UN report, sustainable consumption, which is code for more austerity. 13, the UN list climate change. They want to address realistically climate change, which of course in code means the further attempts to get cap and trade carbon tax credits and footprint taxes for all citizens of the globe. And this is all, and that's all part of the global taxation plans that are all part of all these scenarios. Goal number 14 for the UN report, being more conservative about marine resources, which essentially means less environmental restrictions in code, and also the leasing of ocean floor mineral rights which will be a battleground for corporations in the future, having access to all the minerals on the ocean bed, not to mention the mineral rights to the moon and other planets. Goal number 15 for the UN is terrestrial ecosystems. So they're talking about protecting forests and endangered species and the encroachment of deserts. And what that means is the same thing about conserving marine resources. It means more environmental restrictions, more resource controls, and more mineral rights. And then number 16 is UN wants peace and justice for all global citizens of the world, which basically means UN courts, UN peacekeeping, and then of course the extrajudicial corporate justice system that's being set up by all these trade agreements. And then lastly, number 17, the global partnership, which is just another word for globalization, which is just another word for world corporate governance, just another word for new world order. And so there we have it, the UN kind of issuing their version of what the new global governments will look like. They just leave out the word corporate. But as I brought up in that previous video, we have organizations like NATO and the UN and these corporations all working together with the internationalists to all contribute to creating this new system. So there we have it. There's the UN's version of the new world order. Whoa. I'm useful idiot, don't you be one too.